Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, but today we are going to talk about the first half of the year and these stats that go along with it, and if I'm going to change any of my goals. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first half of the year wrap up. Now we have done a little bit of this content already in the mid-year freakout tag as well as the mid-year calm down tag, but I wanted to do a little bit of a refresh on my goals, both for my own benefit and to kind of talk through a couple of changes that I'm going to be making, because this year didn't go exactly as planned, like any year does, but we're going to talk about a few changes that I'm making in order to hit goals, to reassess goals, etc., etc. So we're going to go through a few stats first. We're going to talk about some of the series that I have either updated or decided I'm not going to do. We're going to go through my bingo board from hell, as well as just like all the challenges that I told myself I was going to do. Let's start with the stats. So I'm going to be reading off my iPad and my notes and such, so I'm going to be looking up and down at you, but future Julie should put all of this on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about as well. We're going to start off with my stats in saying that I've read 72 books this year, and 9 of those have been DNFs. So this is a pretty good percentage for me. I do count my DNFs in with how many books I've read because they end up on my spreadsheet. I want to keep track of all of this, so it's all there. I have read 4,637 physical pages and listened to 462.5 hours of audiobook. So I'm pretty happy with all of that. I have read 13 books as a reread. So this has really been a year of rereading for me. I have reread parts of series in order to get caught up so that I can continue the series. I've also been rereading series in order to just enjoy the reread of the series that are completed. I finished the series, but I want to go back and enjoy them again. So it's a combo, but I have been doing a bunch of rereading this year, and I anticipate that to continue because I've had a great time with it. So far this year, we've had 2 months that have run away with how many books that I have read in those months. So the highest was June with 21, which really isn't that surprising since we had Amazing Readathon, and I tend to read a lot during that readathon. But then we also have February with 18, which is also the month I did the Get a Clue readathon. So those 2 months really pushed me to read more, and I have read a lot in those months. Every other month, except, well, nope, we're currently in July. Every other month, I've read 7 things. Or, a combo of reading and DNFing. I've read 7 things, except for those 2. So everything else has been kind of chill, but those 2 months have really run away with it. As far as format goes, I've listened to 37 audiobooks, I've read 5 ebooks, 15 physical books, and 13 what I call mixture reading, or like listening to the audiobook and reading along in either the ebook or the physical book so far. So this is about what I would expect. I primarily listen to audiobooks followed by physical reading, and then sometimes it gets combined. I read ebooks occasionally, but they are not a primary source of format for me. The audience stats are very interesting to me because I have read 58 books intended for adults and 12 intended for YA audiences and nothing in between. That is not surprising to me. I primarily read books for an adult audience at this point and occasionally venture into YA. Usually if I already own the book or if I'm being recommended the book, but I primarily read books that are intended for adults. I've kind of moved on from the YA and new adult audiences. Then these are my top 5 books for the first half of the year in order. I'm not going to go into this too much because this very well might change in the second half of the year. It could have already changed since July started. You will never know. But these are my top 5 books so far as of the end of June. So this will probably change, but I'm very excited that these 5 have been spectacular so far this year, and I've had a really good time reading so many of the books I've read. But now we're going to jump into all of the challenges that I started at the beginning of the year because I want to do an update, and I also want to remind myself exactly where I am in all of these because I have neglected a few. So we are doing Bree's 25 in 25 bingo board, and this so far I have done 11 out of 25. I am currently only trying to put my physical TBR books on here. So books that I have read from my physical TBR that fit these prompts. At the end of the year, I will fill in anything that I don't accomplish with my physical TBR to fill in anything else that may fit. But for right now, I'm doing my best to challenge myself to fill this with physical TBR books to read off my shelf. Currently I have one bingo, which I'm pretty excited about, and I think I'm doing pretty well. If I was completely on track at the end of June, I think I'd have 12 and a half books done, so I'm a little tiny bit behind, but honestly, I'm doing pretty well for only filling this out with my physical TBR. Next up is the series Takedown Reading Challenge, which was created by Rainy over at Rainy Blue Reads, and I'm not following the rules. Sorry, Rainy. I have taken this challenge and I have run away with it and done something completely different than I think was intended. I think we are supposed to check off the boxes as we do it and only have one series per box, if I'm remembering correctly what the rules were. But I have done it differently. I have just put stickers on every time I've completed the challenge in each box. So I've counted series for multiple things, but I've done almost every box on the board because I'm just counting it as I go, because I want to make a lot of progress in my series, so I'd like to have these boxes full of little stickers by the end of the year. The only one I haven't checked off yet is series influenced by, and that's because I have a couple of series that I am really saving that square for, and I haven't tackled any of those yet. But I've accomplished all of the boxes this many times. Some of them, it's only one, but some of them I've done it a bunch of times. So I'm just kind of running with this challenge this way. And Rainy, I'm sorry, I kind of like took your challenge and adapted it to my needs. I don't remember exactly what the rules were. I thought about going back to check, but this is kind of how I've been doing it all this year, and I'm not going to change it. So Rainy, it's helping. It's helping me, but I don't think I'm following the rules. Next up is the bingo board from hell, which was created by Winn at Literary Diversions, and this I'm adjusting. I'm already going to be doing some changes. So this was my original board that I had filled out with a bunch of different challenges, and I'm doing well on some, but I'm going to adjust some. So we're going to change the wording of the very first square. Originally, I said I'd like to reduce my physical TBR by 50%. And I'm keeping the spirit of this, but we're doing it a little differently because I'm changing it to reduce my pre-2025 TBR by 50%, because I'm always bringing in new books. I'm always finding new books to read or purchase or buy or bring to my TBR. And I would like to give myself a little bit of grace and say, I want my TBR, I want my physical TBR to be more current. I also am trying to work on buying books after I purchase them, after I read them, instead of before I purchase them, always, or at least starting the series before I purchase the series. I'm kind of transitioning to that sort of buying, but I'm not perfect at it. I get excited about books in a bookstore just like anybody else. So I'm trying to reduce my books that I'm buying to add to my physical TBR, but mostly I want my TBR to be more current, even if it's larger. So the goal here is to reduce my pre-2025 TBR from 75 to 35, I think is what my original stats were. Am I doing super well on that? No. All right, so I actually just checked, and I'm going to tell myself I actually am doing better than I thought I was, because do I have all the 2025 purchases in this spreadsheet? No, I do not. But they are separated out by year, and my 2024 purchases and before are down to 49 from 75. So we have reduced it by 25. So that's actually fantastic. So if I keep going, we're going to keep doing well. Now, is this spreadsheet always completely accurate? No, there's always somehow more books on the TBR than I thought there were. So we're not going to give myself too many pats on the back, but I do think I'm doing better than I thought I was. And like I said, I am changing this square from my entire TBR to just my pre-2025 to be 35. I'd like to kind of just keep the backlog down further so that I can read my newer books sooner, because I tend to focus on these older books thinking I have to read them. They've been here a long time, but then I don't read my current books either, and then they slowly become older books, and it's just a vicious cycle. So we'd like to have the backlog be smaller so the newer books, even if I purchase them unread, get read sooner. hopefully all of that made sense. Next square, I wanted to read 4 nonfiction books. Now, technically I've read 2, but one was this, which is a very informative, very lovely picture book, but it was nonfiction, so my spreadsheet says 2. However, therefore I'd like to read 5 by the end of the year. I wanted to read like 4 solid nonfiction books, and we're getting back into reading nonfiction. 1 in the first half of the year is not ideal, but hopefully we'll read some more. I know I'm going to take at least 1 with me on vacation because I do like to read nonfiction on vacation, so that will be something. But yeah, I'm trying to get back into this as best I can. My next square was to read 12 buddy or book club reads, and I have done 11 in the first half of the year. So we're going to increase this to 18. And I'm sure I will hit that because it's only an increase of 6 from where I was. But everybody's busy in the summer, and I haven't had quite as many planned out as I did at the beginning of the year. So I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. So we're just going to increase this by 6. But I love buddy reading. I've had great experiences in the first half of the year with all of my buddies, and I can't wait to continue to do this. Square number 4 was to physically visit the library 4 times. And if you asked me in the first 3 months of the year if I was going to accomplish this, I was getting nervous. But I have formed the habit. I have been to my library 4 times so far this year. I've been there more than that now. I've been going every 2 weeks for a couple of months now since it got warmer. But I've done it. So we're going to say visit it 4 more times. Try to keep up the habit. Hopefully keep up the habit into the end of the year. Here's the problem when I visit the library. I tend to check out too much stuff, and then I'm not working on my physical TBR. So eventually I just return everything, and I'm like, I need to take a break. So I think what I need to learn to do is to physically check out books that I'm actually going to read and not overwhelm myself. But that's never going to happen. There are too many shiny things at the library that I check out, bring home, don't read, take back, eventually check out again. It's fine. Everything's fine. We'll just keep going to the library and supporting the library. The center square was to listen to 75 audiobooks. I think I said I'd listen to 35, so we are pretty much on track for this. I guess a tiny bit behind because if you double 35, it's 70, but I'm on track in a good way, so I'm happy with this. We're just going to keep going. Square number 6 was to reduce my ongoing series list by 25%. And even when I made this goal at the beginning of the year, I watched my video back. I was like, I need to figure this out because I don't know what 25% is going to be. I don't even know what I'm counting for this. And I still don't. So we're going to change this a little bit and just say, I made several categories in my series spreadsheet last year, at the end of last year. I had a blue color that I highlighted that I wanted to make progress in those series. I really wanted to read, and I was excited about those series. I wanted to read the next book or reread parts of those series so that I could catch up and try to move on. And I also had a yellow color that was, if I didn't make progress in that series in the next year, in 2025, I was probably going to DNF that series. I wanted to reassess at the end of the year. So I think my goal at the end of this year is to do 25% of each one of those. Now I still have to go in and see how many of those series there were, but that's my goal, that I want to do 25% of each of those. Maybe future Julie, editing Julie, will figure that out and include a stat here. She's gonna be mad at me that I made her do that, but if I say it, she'll probably do it, and then she'll know, and then maybe she'll get it done. Fine. The next square was to reorganize my bookshelves. I have 3 bookshelves that are not this bookshelf, and I wanted to reorganize, clean, change up those bookshelves that I was using them more effectively, that I got rid of some of the junk on here. So I have done 2 out of those 3. I have done the furthest one, and I have done the one that's right here. So I think I'm going to accomplish this by the end of the year. I have some reorganizing and changing to do in my house. I've talked about that a little bit in vlogs and such this summer. So we're gonna get to the 3rd bookshelf. I'm also hoping to reorganize this. Last December, I changed this bookshelf around to be organized alphabetically by author's last name, and I hate it. I hate it. So I would like to reorganize this and go back to my vibes shelf, where I basically had like my favorites in the middle two shelves. Then I organized by genre and vibes more than anything. So I would like to go back to that because I hate this system that I currently have. So we'll see if that gets done by the end of the year, but I'm tacking that on. I didn't even, oh no, I did add to reorganize my big bookshelf because this is not working. I can't add anything in. I have to reorganize it every time I want to add a book to this shelf, and it's not ideal. So we're gonna change this up as well. 8th square was to do one booktube review per month. Ha! We've done one. I think we've done one this year. So I would like to do 3 more this year in the second half of the year. I keep putting ideas on this review video list. I have done some shorts as video reviews, but I also have some series video reviews that I'd like to do. Those are ones that I enjoy making, and I do enjoy doing the reviews. So this is something I'd like to tackle again. So I'd like to do 3 in the second half of the year. Then my last square was to clear my physical TBR of books from 2022 or before. These are purchases from 2022 or before, not necessarily that they were published 2022 or before. I have accomplished this with 8 books and I have 10 left. So we are about on track to get through these in the second half of the year. So I had a video series that I was hoping I was going to start to help with this last goal, as well as tackling some of my series that I talked about, which was called Series Scaries. And I still like the concept of that blog, but I didn't like how I executed it, and I didn't work out the way I wanted it to when I was filming it. So I don't know that that series is going to continue. If you liked that video, let me know, because I'll brainstorm more about how to work on that video. But I think we're going to shift a little bit and do something different and kind of do more of a TBR takedown, TBR tackle, like a Becca style shelve it or scrap it type video in the second half of this year, because I already have some ideas for that. You might see that coming. I'm hoping that that will happen in the second half of the year and we can work on some of this backlog of books that I have. But yeah, I'm not sure if Series Scaries is going to be coming back. I was really excited for that, but then it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. So as far as challenges go, we have Suffer-a-thon, the year-long Suffer-a-thon challenge from Paige over at Pages with Paige. Now, I did a really good job keeping track of this for the first 4 months of the year, but I then lost track. I'm not in the Discord for this. I think there is a Discord. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know where this readathon was hosted last year, and I missed the actual readathon last year, but I wanted to pick up the challenge in January. So I just chaotically joined. And then when we started talking about jumping off a ship, I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like I have fallen into a lifeboat, but we're just going to keep going with it because I was having fun. The videos of the challenges are hilarious, and I'm just having a good time. So I have done the January, February, March, April, and May challenge. I think I still have to do June. No, I did June because I did my whole self-care board, and that was the do something to take care of yourself. So I have done that. I didn't do Paige's challenge. Should that count for this? Now I'm just arguing with myself. I did a self-care board in June rather than adding to my TBR, so we're gonna count that. So I have done the January through June prompts, I think. From what I can tell in my notes, which are chaotic, but that feels like the spirit of this challenge. So I feel like I'm caught up on Suffer-a-thon, and it's going all right so far. I don't want to say that too loudly because I don't want any more scary challenges to come my way. Because July, the one for July for me is Dread. Very fitting. Anyway, that's where we're at in Suffer-a-thon. And then the last one I have here is Kayla's from Books and Lala Buzzwordathon challenge boards. I'm trying to do both the cover and the title, and this is where I'm at with these because I filled them out, but I have been forgetting to tell you about what I fill out for these. So this is where I'm at. I have no longer, for the first few months, I kept up with doing the challenge per month, and now we're just kind of filling them in wherever and trying to get one per month. So I think I'm a tad behind on both of these, mostly because I've lost track of literally everything as far as challenges go, and we're trying to get back on track. This is a review and a reset of these challenges. So I did have just a list of my own goals for the year, which we're going to quickly go over because a lot of these have overlap. I'll just touch on the ones that I haven't talked about in some way, shape, or form before. So read 100 books. I told you that we are at 72 with 9 DNFs. So 63 finished, which is fine. Doing well in there. We count everything here. We count everything we read here because I've tried it, I've attempted it, I gave it some effort, so it's gonna count. The next goal is my physical TBR. We already talked about that. The third goal was have fun. Read books you are excited about. I feel like I am doing that with my rereads, with the series that I'm like rereading, going back to, as well as the books I have been reading this year. I've been reading a little less per month, but I'm enjoying what I'm reading for the most part. Add less than 30 purchased books to your physical TBR. I forgot about that goal. And I told you that my purchased tab is not up to date on my spreadsheet. So that's going to be one that we're going to have to figure out, but we're not going to put that on Julie for this video. She's going to have to figure that out later because I know that I haven't updated my transactions tab since April. And that's a problem because I forget what I've bought. So we're going to have to go back and watch the haul. Anyway, it's a long story. It's going to be a long process, so it's probably not going to be in this video, but eventually we will figure that out. Eliminate purchases from before 2022. We talked about that. Engage in community and be brave. I feel like oh my God. I feel like I'm working on this goal. I feel like I was doing pretty well in the first few months of the year, and then I hit a reading slump and a content slump, and I kind of disappeared from some places for a little bit, and I haven't been keeping up with things quite as much. I'm trying to jump back into it, but I'm not the greatest at reaching out in conversation. So I'm trying to continue to get better at that, but it's a challenge. It's a personal challenge for me. 12 series Scary's diary vlogs. It's not happening. 12 is not happening this year. Maybe another one will happen if I can kind of restructure the concept in a way that I like. But I'll see. Like I said, we might be swapping things out or adding a different challenge for the second half of the year. And then sprint twice a month. That hasn't happened with regularity, but I have done it a few times. I have been participating in Neva's 24-hour weekend sprints occasionally. I think I've done that a few times this year. I've also participated and sprinted in some readathons that I helped host or moderate or whatever. And I've done some sprints on my own, but not a ton. It's not twice a month. So we'll see if we can get that going the second half of the year. It won't be happening in July. July is too full already with stuff that has going on in my life. I'm hoping to get to sprint at least once this month, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. But I've been on sprints so far this month already. Does that count? No. The intention was to sprint on this channel, host sprints twice a month, but it hasn't quite happened. That's everything, I think, that I said I was going to participate in, that I was working on, etc. But I could be forgetting something. It's chaos around here right now. I don't know. But those are the challenges that I had written down, things that I had in my notes that I was updating you on each month and then kind of fell off of. So I wanted to kind of reset and resume updates for this. I was inspired by Steph from the Novelty Corner to kind of revamp my bingo board from hell because I saw her changing up some of her goals and I was like, you know what? We need to do that. We need to accept that sometimes we need to do that. So I'm going to change some things and we're going to see how the second half of the year goes. And if we don't hit these goals, it's not a big deal because these are arbitrary goals for fun. That's why we're changing things because it's not working and I want to continue to have fun. That is it for the video today. If you want to share any of the stats that you have for your year so far, whether it's books read or how your challenges are going, if you're participating in anything, let me know. I'd love to chat with you down below about that. But if you aren't feeling chatty, go ahead and just leave me your current weather emoji right now. Whether it's your favorite weather emoji or just your current weather outside. I'd love to know. But thank you so much all for hanging out for the first half of the year and seeing what these goals are. Hopefully I will have updates for you in the end of the year about my series and such that I am changing up so that you can see how this all worked out. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!